In most stories, when we watch a hero suffer, we assume it's only temporary, a necessary struggle that will make their eventual triumph feel earned. The darker the journey, the more satisfying the ending is supposed to be. This is what so many revenge narratives promise. That if you endure long enough, if you fight hard enough, you'll find justice. You'll get closure. The villain will be punished, and you'll walk away changed, maybe scarred, but somehow redeemed. We like these stories because they reassure us that pain has purpose. That no matter how cruel the world looks, good people will eventually win if they stay determined. It's comforting to think that no amount of suffering can truly defeat the hero's spirit. But then there's a film like Oldboy. This isn't a story where the hero's suffering leads to clarity. It's a story where every moment of hope, every discovery, every small victory is actually just another step deeper into a trap. It's a story where the villain doesn't simply outsmart the hero. He designs his entire reality, down to the last detail. Here, the hero loses completely, and not in some symbolic way. He loses everything that makes him feel human. Oldboy isn't just about a man seeking revenge. It's about how revenge can become a philosophy, a system so consuming that it distorts everyone it touches. Lee Woo-jin doesn't want simple payback for the rumor that destroyed his life. He wants to show that vengeance, if planned carefully enough, can reach beyond punishment and become a kind of total annihilation. He wants to prove that if you take away someone's time, their freedom, their sense of reality, you can also take away any hope they have of understanding themselves. And it also asks a harder question. Will revenge solve all your problems? If vengeance is supposed to heal you, why does it so often create new wounds? That's why he doesn't just imprison Dae-soo physically. He builds a story around him that Dae-soo can never truly escape. And this is where Oldboy becomes more unsettling than most films that deal with revenge. It suggests that if your memories and perceptions can be manipulated, then your sense of self is fragile, maybe even an illusion. Dae-soo spends years believing he's fighting to reclaim his life, when he's actually performing exactly as Woo-jin intended. That's why the story doesn't feel satisfying in the way we expect. Because the usual promise that the truth will set you free is exposed as a lie. When Dae-soo finally learns that Mi-do is his daughter, the revelation doesn't redeem him. It crushes him. It forces us to ask, is knowing always better than not knowing? Is there any value in truth if it only leaves you broken? Would you love someone the same way once you knew the truth? That question hovers over Dae-soo in every moment of the film. One of the most devastating moments is when he falls to his knees, cutting out his own tongue as a gesture of remorse, as if punishing himself can somehow cleanse what he's done. But nothing can erase the fact that he was guided into this by a mind more ruthless than he could imagine. When he begs to forget, to be hypnotized into ignorance, it isn't a moment of cowardice, it's a survival instinct. Because to live with that knowledge would be unbearable. And this choice brings us back to a question that resonates through other stories about fractured identity. Would you rather live as a monster or die as a good man? Shutter Island asked it in different words, but Oldboy forces us to feel it more viscerally. If forgetting is the only way to keep loving someone, is that mercy or self-betrayal? The film refuses to answer. That final scene in the snow, when Dae-soo holds Mi-do and forces a smile, stays with you because you don't know what it means. Is he free from the truth or simply pretending to be? Did the hypnosis work? Or is he trying to keep her from ever learning what happened? This ambiguity is the film's most powerful idea. It doesn't just leave Dae-soo in limbo. It leaves us there too, wondering whether vengeance, even when perfectly executed, ever delivers the satisfaction we expect, or whether it only leaves a deeper emptiness behind it. When you look at Woo-jin's victory, it's tempting to see it as pure cruelty. But in a way, it's also an argument about how fragile identity is. One rumor, one careless moment, can start a chain of events that destroys everyone involved. Dae-soo isn't a monster because he wanted to be. He becomes one because someone else decided he would. And that's the brilliance and the horror of Oldboy. The villain doesn't need to survive to win. His victory happens the moment he makes Dae-soo's reality so toxic that the only escape is forgetting it ever happened. This is why Oldboy breaks all the rules most stories follow. The hero doesn't find redemption. The villain doesn't get exposed or humiliated. The truth doesn't offer clarity. The trauma isn't healed. Instead, the story ends in a space we aren't used to occupying. A space where vengeance doesn't resolve anything. Where trauma doesn't make you stronger. Where the person you thought was your savior is actually the final instrument of your destruction. And maybe that's why it feels so unsettling. Because it shows that a villain can win not just by overpowering you, but by reordering your entire life until you can't even trust what you feel. In the end, Oldboy isn't just a story about revenge. It's a story that shows how revenge, no matter how perfectly executed, is never enough to heal what was broken. That vengeance doesn't solve everything. It can feel righteous in the moment, but pain has a way of seeping back into your life long after the last blow has been struck. It leaves you wondering whether anything you do to settle a score can ever bring real peace, or if it only creates new wounds you'll spend the rest of your life trying to forget.